Okay. Welcome, everybody. Creativity Expert Exchange 2026. We're going to hear from Christopher von Spitzer today. Christopher is a dual master student studying creativity and change leadership at Buffalo State's Center for Applied Imagination. And the thing moved on me. And extended reality technologies at Arizona State University. He is a former intern at Dreamscape Learn and currently works at ASU's Mesh Labs. Prior to graduate study, he spent over 15 years as an educator, working with students across the globe in learning centers, public and private schools in the United States and abroad, at the university level, and within a nonprofit organization. He is the recipient of the Sidney J. Parnes and Ruth B. Noller Creativity Award and the Mary Murdoch Creative Spirit Award. Congratulations to you, Chris. I'll hand
Thank
it
you.
off to you.
All right, well, let's begin. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and let's see if we can. Okay, let's do this. 1, 2, 3. Let me know if everyone can see that there. Yeah, sweet. All right, well, welcome everyone to my presentation, The New Frontier, Creative Thinking in the Age of Extended Reality Technology. All right, I'm gonna do my best because I know with my energy, I can speak quite quickly. So I want to make sure I'll take my time and we go from there. But if I'm speaking too quickly, please raise your hand and I'll slow down. Okay, so I just want to have a big appreciation to you for being here with this exciting technology, and I want to explore how it elevates creative thinking. Dr. Ackerbauer, thank you for moderating. Dr. Puccio, who helped me, as well as Dr. Bauer, with this presentation, and of course the founders of this program. This is such a unique program, and my wife doesn't know that. Just a giant thank you to you. I love you, my beautiful butterfly. You did so much help with me and my 3 hours sleep. Just really making sure the details are right for this, for all of you to get this to be of value. Okay, so let's begin. I love this quote by Alex Osborne. Necessity may be the mother of invention, but fun is the father. So that will be the theme here of fun and serious fun, okay? All right, so who am I? As Dr. Ackerbauer mentioned, dual master student. I'm here living in Arizona with my wife. Dreamscape Learn, if you're not familiar, they're pioneers and they're really scaling with getting VR in traditional education. So they have these VR pods. So if you haven't seen pictures of what they're doing, go to Google and check out images, and it's really fascinating work to have the courage to just keep going with this technology and education. And I work at Mesh Labs, and it's an XR lab where we work with clients as Dreamscape to develop these XR projects and others. All right, and I do have a MetaQuest 2 and 3, and I use my 3 almost every day. So it's not something that I'm just cognitively interested in, but I actually utilize this technology and have Meta smart glasses, but I'm not recording here. And so just wanted to mention that. Okay, so there's a couple of key terms. I just want to make sure because it can get really confusing with all these fancy terms. So XR is the umbrella term, right? We have VR, which is when you're fully immersed in this digital representation of all this environments and objects. And then augmented reality versus mixed reality. All right. So augmented reality is when you have that opportunity to experience and see something, right? This virtual element, but it's not really interacting with the environment. It doesn't really know its environment, or you're not really interacting with it. Mixed reality is when you actually do interact with it, not just through your screen, but you have this experience where I can do something with this and it knows your environment. It goes behind your couch and it knows where it is. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that's clear. Virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality for XR. And you might also hear immersive technology or spatial computing, right? And just other terms for XR. Okay, so a little pop quiz. All right, I just want to see if anyone can tell me which one is the VR one. All right, is it the first one? Is it the second one or the third one? If you could put it in the chat for me, please, or just show a number of fingers if you have your camera on. Which one is VR? The first one, second one, third one. Okay. Which one then? So just put that in the chat. I'll wait there. So which one is the VR one? Anyone take? Yeah. All right. So we got third one, third. Anyone else? Oh, all right. So I'm going to just put it here. Yes, it is the third one. So we'll just go there. All right. Which one is the augmented reality? Again, this is the one where it's not knowing your environment as much as the mixed reality, and you're not interacting with it as much as in right mixed reality. So which one is the AR one? Which one would that be? Again, so I'll put it here, right? Reality is enhanced by the virtual elements. Which one is the augmented reality? Yeah, the first one. If anyone's ever played, has anyone played that Pokemon Go? Has anyone played that game? Show of hands. Okay. And then the third one, of course, we have here mixed reality, and that's this one, Lego Brick Tales. All right. And that's with the Quest 3 headset. Okay. So the question I want to explore with this presentation, let me make this a little bigger, is how does this extended reality technology elevate this creative thinking? All right. So I love this quote. If you've heard this, I skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it's been. So I also want to explore the question of how can we prepare, right? If it's okay, we're going to explore how does it elevate it and should we prepare? All right. So let's find out more. All right. I'm going to share with you a little there. We're going to go a little time travel from Bill and Ted. And here we go. Just make it a little fun. And we go. And now we're going to go into, yes, the 70s. So I want to give you some context before we get into the research. So Apple One, I don't know if anyone's ever seen this before, lived through that. With the Apple One, right? A few thousand hobbyists, right? Just a couple hundred youths. And just in a few years later, they had the Apple II. Okay. So if we zoom, and we keep going, boop, we had there Apple II a few years later, and then now we get to 2023. 95% of US households have at least one type of computer, smartphones, desktop, laptops, right? So quite a big difference from here to here, right? So let's look at VR, right? XR, if we want to explore even the umbrella term. By the end of 2016, this is when really the first wave of these mass market VR headsets, right, came into being. So we had 3.5% of US broadband households, or 3.4 million households, own a virtual reality headset. All right. Then we had the Oculus, and then this is the Vive and the PlayStation VR. But now let's go to 2025. Now we have 23% of US adults. So now it's 53 million adults own at least one VR headset. All right. So we're growing. It's growing, right? All right. So I want to share this research. Where is this going to go next? Well, some researchers at Stanford and Meta from my paper, they're developing these ultra thin holographic displays for these next gen mixed reality glasses, right? So they want to project these realistic 3 holographic images into the user's eyes. And you've probably seen the craze with all these smart glasses, with Meta smart glasses. So this is just a concept photo, right? According to Statista, by 2030, maybe the number of these users, right, of AR and VR might reach 3.8 billion users, and where it's going to come from. So just something to think about of where we came from and where we're going. All right, so now let's explore to the next one. So I want to explore this question, right? How does extended reality elevate creative thinking? All right. 3 focuses. I want to focus on demand, unusual experiences. I want to focus on the on demand alternative ways to collaborate and on demand flow states that it provides. All right. So let's go into the on demand unusual experiences. All right. And here we go. And by the way, Maggie, this is part of Meow Wolf in VR. All right. So with this study, They had two experiments, but because of time, I'm going to only focus on the first experiment. They had participants go into three different groups, right? Or these conditions. They had active unexpected events, they had active normal events, both of them in VR, and they had a third one with vicarious unexpected events where they were watching something on a film, which was that first experience. But instead of VR, it was just watching. So let me explain a little bit deeper about the first group. So these participants in VR, they walked into this virtual cafeteria, and this is where the laws of physics were just broken. I mean, it went cocoa bananas. They had, for example, there was a briefcase on top of a table, and it was just stretched out in terms of its size back and forth. There was this altered state of movement where when you were walking in the experience, right, you weren't walking at normal speed. It was 1.5 times speed, right? But as you just moved your legs, right? Or they had this moment where there was a bottle and a toy car, and this toy car hit the bottle at the edge of the table, and the bottle right fell down and then went back up, right? So define all the laws of physics. And that was the active unexpected events. In the second group, back into the cafeteria, but everything was behaving as normally. So there wasn't this warping of right size or speed or gravity. And then, as I mentioned in the third group, they were watching this on film, right? What were they watching? That first experience where it was defining all the laws of physics. Now, what did they discover? Well, with that first experiment, when they did this version of the unusual uses task, where they asked participants, for 2 minutes, list as many ideas as you can of what makes sound, right? They found that those that experienced that active, unexpected events showed really high cognitive gains in flexibility, right? Exploring, in other words, of different categories of ideas. And VR was what enabled us to have that weird experience, right? So wanted to share that in terms of cognitive flexibility. So on-demand, unusual experiences. So a question for us to ponder, all right? And this is an actual game in that photo, and that's called Starship Home, is if VR enables people to actively experience the unexpected, what kinds of experiences could be designed to spark original thinking? Or even asking yourself, if you were to design for this, right? Or if you were to experience it, what would spark that original thinking? Okay, now let's explore the second focus, on-demand alternative collaboration. Okay. For this focus, I want to share two empirical studies, and this was during COVID-19, right? So during the pandemic, where all that social distancing, and there was a questionnaire and interview. And what they did is they wanted to explore actually mental health with these social VR apps. And the specific one was VR chat that they focused on this study. And what they found was being in an avatar, right? It created this psychological safe environment, which allowed people to kind of shift their behavior that they normally wouldn't do in real life. And it even influenced their behavior in real life. Okay. So I'll share here's some of the responses that users shared, right? It made me more outspoken, confident, and social in real life. VR chat really let me explore more my extroverted side, right? Others said, I'm actually able to talk to strangers now and open up, right, more about things that maybe they wouldn't before. So I found that interesting. I wanted to share that the power of what VR could do and then getting into the real life. And I'll share another one with a book I'm actually reading right now, which is called The Spatial Race. And this one is by Courtney Harding, who is a thought leader in this space. And I've connected with her on Zoom. And she mentioned in the book, and I found this super interesting, she worked with a company and they wanted to have this more open communication, all these different levels, the executives and interns and so forth. And she created this little mini experimentation session, right? Where everyone's an avatar, they had ID numbers, their voices were disguised. And what were the results from this experience that she did, right? Where they were speaking about different ideas and solving problems in the organization. Well, the interns, they presented more of the original ideas, right? Women and people of color spoke up more, and these executives were doing more of the listening. And then how did it translate towards more to real life? It actually led to more inclusive meetings. She explores it in the book, and more recognition of, hey, we need just new ideas from different levels, right? So I found that very, very interesting. I wanted to share that. So, question to us to explore, since this technology is exponentially developing, right? How might we use these avatars in VR to create more of this psychological safety that enables people to collaborate ways that we normally wouldn't, right? So how could we explore this now, right, in today's world to create that environment, all right? All right, and then the third focus is this on-demand flow state, all right? So with this study, they had 200 of these undergraduate art and design students in Mexico, and they were participating in this virtual experience where there was a gallery, an art gallery, and they were showcasing their own art and seeing other art from each other. And what was discovered from this, right? Well, what they discovered was that when they were in this virtual environment, showcasing their art, talking to others through the voice chat, that they found that this sense of flow happened, right? And it was because of that sense of flow that it led to more curiosity, more reflective thinking, and more cognitive benefits, right? So, a question for us to ponder is how might we design, immersive warm up experiences to help users enter a state of flow before a brainstorming or a CPS session? And those of you who've gone through the program or taken a class in CPS know, right, the value of warming up before you're ideating and so forth. All right. So, in summary here, or to recommend, I want to mention that if you've never tried an Apple Vision Pro, I don't know if it's show of hands, if you've never ever tried that, I highly recommend you try an Apple Vision Pro headset, the one in the bottom left. You go to Apple Store and set up, and I really tried that experience. It's about 20 minutes, maybe 30 if they'll give it to you, and to really see something that maybe if you've never tried a VR headset, that would be really a premier headset to try. Or getting a Meta Quest 3S, they're about what, $250 now compared to what it was even before, and explore different apps or what you can do there, or just see what's coming as a tool for us in the community. Or read books. My favorite book in the collection is Our Next Reality, and I've met the authors and just they're so generous. There's so much information on in this book that is very valuable. Or attending event. AWE is the premier XR event, and I'll be attending here in Long Beach. It's coming up in June. Or there's Harvard XR event. Or if you've never seen Ready Player One or even read the book, highly recommend that by Steven Spielberg. And just getting a glimpse of what could be possible in this exciting thing of metaverse and virtual reality and XR. All right. So thank you so much for listening to Cutting Edge Technology and with Creative Thinking. And my email's there if you have any questions to go deeper, and I'd be happy to answer them and support you on that journey. So thank you so much. I don't know how my time was, Dr. Bart.
Fantastic. You got time to spare to have some Q&A.
Excellent.
Hey, Chris, I have a question for
Hey,
you.
Scott. Yeah.
I've done a lot of work with XR in my job, and I think for me in hospital settings, there's a lot of difficulty in getting the programs off the ground, especially with the difficulty in use and people trying to get used to the technology. And my opinion is that
Yeah.
the less inconvenient this technology becomes, the more we'll get buy-in from people. But what are your thoughts on that
Yeah.
technology and that kind of obstacle to get XR out there?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. I mean, so that's why I love this research, because what seems to be happening, Scott, is, you know, people might think, oh, that's goofy. Why do I need this headset? It looks like a spider. I mean, just ugly, right? A ski mask. And so smart glasses is becoming the sexy, right, tool, right? And seems like now in the market, that's really where the focus is going at the moment. Um, so I feel that there's going to be a bridge from going, so with this technology, right? From smart glasses, from these big, heavy headsets, smart glasses, and then mixing these two, right? So that we have that in more immersive experiences, but you have it just much thinner. And I forget what research I read, something about the certain distance. There's a point where just people want a certain thickness where they just feel comfortable then to wear it all the time and just be okay with it. So I think that's where we're headed, right? We have these headsets, we've got smart classes, and then just kind of bringing those two together and finding the bridge between the two. That makes sense. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Excellent question. Yeah. Anybody else? Any
Yeah,
questions?
can I hop in here with just a thought slash question, Chris?
Please. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, that was an interesting article that you posted there about the avatars within the company and showing kind of the interns had the best ideas, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera.
Yeah.
That was fascinating to me, which makes me pose the question and or just follow a line of thinking here. And I'd be curious to know your thoughts
Yeah.
about how, in that regard, could VR or any of these realities, I suppose, be used to study like workplace culture? Because obviously that's
Mm,
something there that there was a very obvious workplace
mm.
culture going on
Yes. Yes.
that they didn't know until after that study happened. So like, yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, it's great. I've heard also VR as being an empathy machine. There is this experience that you could try and quest where, and hopefully this is relevant, where you have the experience of a woman coming from a bar and
Oh,
just men hollering at you. And I was trying it, and you're walking, and these men come out to you and like holler, and you're just walking through the alley, and you start to feel this. Or I felt like a little bit of fear, like, oh my, what's going to happen? And I was just right experiencing this. So yes, there is Nancy LaPagna. I believe she is considered the godmother of VR, is what it is, and she explores immersive journalism. So there's
okay.
something to be said about having this to create empathy. And it's not that this VR, yeah, it's not replacing, you got to be little. It's, hey, can we, like, for example, at Dreamscape Learn, right, where I intern and I oversee their projects, they have these 15 minutes experiences for the students. And then they go back into the classroom and there's, oh, this, I'm in Mars and they can experience that. So can you provide something short, brief, right? And then go into right the real world and
Yeah,
whatever needs to happen and creating that empathy for whatever your needs
interesting.
are. So
Yeah, I could
yeah,
see a lot of use for that in leadership development as well. And when you're talking about
yeah,
empathy training, essentially. Um, yeah, that's
oh
fantastic.
yeah,
Never thought about
yeah,
that. Great
yeah,
insights. Thanks, Chris.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great question. Yeah, it was wonderful. All right, great.
Anybody
How are
else?
we doing, Akabara, with
Doing great time.
time
Great
at
for time.
great?
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Anybody else? All right, go here. Recommendations. Has anyone, curious, has everyone seen, if you have your camera on, the Ready Player One? Has anyone seen that or read the book? Okay,
Neither.
neither. All right. Well, it's a fun film. I mean,
Yep.
Spielberg. It's got Indiana Jones and right virtual realities. All right, that adventure playfulness of Spielberg. But I highly recommend. And my journey started really because I read the book during the pandemic. And when I read that book, and then I started getting into science and technology. And then when I got my first headset, and I was off to the races there. And that was right after actually the pandemic where, um, yeah.
Are you
So
familiar
I,
with Readyverse Studios, Chris?
no, what's it called? Ready for Studios?
Readyverse.
Oh,
Yeah,
Readyverse.
I went
No,
to
tell me about it.
in South by Southwest. I went to a panel
Yeah.
with four people, and one of the co-founders is Ernest Cline, who's the
Oh, the author.
futurist and
Yeah.
creator. Yep.
Oh, interesting. All right.
So yeah, check that
It's
company out.
yeah. It's a great it's a title there, Ready for Studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a second one, Ready Player Two. Yeah. So then now there's the sequel. Yeah. So anyways, and so I highly recommend or check out if you haven't already, Dreamscape Learn. They have now these mobile pods. So I'll share this Dreamscape Learn uh, mobile pods, and this is really really interesting of what's coming. And I don't know, Dr. Akbar, if you've seen this. So you see the students, and it's not like they're there for hours, right? Again, these are just 15 minutes experiences every week as part of a story, and then they go back into their classrooms. And so there, I believe, in about 20 community colleges right now, these pods, and then
Interesting.
now they release these mobile units, and yeah, they're launching in high schools, and it's growing and expanding. So, and there's the pod there, you can see. And so I work with overseeing different of these projects. So there's Mars, microeconomics, music theory, and again, short little experiences, then go back in the classroom and see. And they have research to show how this increases engagement and it's improving them to right their test scores, or I mean grade levels, excuse me. So some interesting stuff coming.
This is far more advanced than when you and I spoke about it earlier.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
feels virtual reality feels rudimentary compared to this.
yeah. It's when I got my headset, I was just blown away because I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't know this. I thought it would just be okay, gimmicky. And then I got hooked and I said, I need to explore this. And now AI has all the attention. But I'm like, what's going to happen if we start to converge these, or we'll see, you know? Anyways,
Which
so
goes back to a question or topic you and I had offline where I wondered why hasn't augmented reality taken off more? Or are you saying that's what the
mm,
glasses are doing now that I haven't tried?
it, yes, yeah, I think that the form factor, and
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Scott asked, all these heavy headsets, and I think I heard that someone actually was skiing with an Apple Vision Pro. That's a little dangerous.
Well,
But having right the bridge between the headsets and these smart glasses,
yeah.
and then you start to display all these interesting things. Yeah. So
Well,
uh,
I
it,
found I don't know if anybody saw it in the comments. I said I felt seen when you showed the Mac that had the cassette tape player next to it for
mm.
storage. Here,
Yeah.
let me unblur my screen, my camera. This is a Timex Sinclair 1000, circa 1981. It has a full-blown 2K of RAM on board, 2 kilobytes, with a
There you
with an
go.
with room for an expansion pack of 16K. So we've come a long way, baby.
Yeah, we've come a long way. Yeah. And I was sharing this with my wife. I mean, technology was echoing. There's this light and dark side to it. In other words, the Walkmans. I was
Yeah.
seeing these headlines of showing how when the Walkmans came out, oh, this is terrible. We're gonna have a silent world and isolating. And on one part, there is that part of isolating yourself, but another part, it's right. What's this new technology? The threats to change our habits and um, our way of being. So just something to at least first to at least prepare and explore and experiment as creative thinkers. You know,
Yeah. And
I find that fascinating.
I like where Maggie was going as well. We did this in Second Life and other virtual worlds many,
Yeah.
many years ago, where to have an avatar that didn't necessarily represent your actual real world self
Hmm.
allowed for a little bit more self-expression, a little less social
Mm,
reserve,
yes.
which could go in a number of ways depending on the platform. But
Right.
I do like the fact that voices were heard that might not have been
Yeah.
or typically aren't heard traditionally. And I agree that's
Mm,
an interesting That's an interesting study in and of itself, is to which, not to be an advertisement, plays a little bit into my talk tomorrow about how to read a room, and just by understanding people's honest signals, you can get enough discernment of where their cognitive leaning is coming from based on their emotional engagement. And that's an interesting way to tell or help draw out input that we might not in collaboration. So I could see
Yeah.
a value to that too. And I think Dr. Lubart, we talked about that, right, Chris, a little bit.
Mhm.
I think Dr. Lubart touched on that a little bit last year. That I think maybe it wasn't the bringing voices out, but the environment in which you find yourself lends itself to more or less creative expression. So those are
Oh,
interesting platforms to
absolutely.
consider.
Yeah, if anyone didn't go to the CE of last year, or hasn't seen the video of Dr. Talou Bart's on virtual reality, it's fascinating. Yeah, with those
Yep.
priming elements, right?
Yep.
Where in a virtual reality room they had right, art and all these cues, right, to prime someone, and then they also had a virtual reality room where it was just boring and dull, and right? And then
Yep.
the one with right, those cues to prime people for improved creative performance did actually happen, and versus just a boring dull room. So it's not just VR; it's what you
Yep.
have in there, and that's what
Right.
yeah,
The
the research of
environment.
this unexpected events, the environment. Yeah,
Some of it
yeah,
being, as I recall, dark and creepy. But yeah, the environment
yeah,
mattered too, as much as
yeah.
the 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 normalizing of communication methods that don't, get people out of their comfort zone and not want to be
And
heard.
something yeah, and I mean, and I'm experimenting. So when I wrote my concept paper, uh, and my other paper that I had, my big question paper, I would put on the headset for 5 minutes and then take it off, and
Yeah.
then start working to get into flow or just get the divergent thinking, because it's just it provides this machine to get you into these weird spaces or environments, and then here we go. So yeah, it's just interesting.
Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. So once we
Well,
get into the form factor, Scott, or Scott's there, yeah, then we'll see. Well, yeah, what's going to happen is more and more with these. What Apple, I think next year, or they're saying that the smart glasses, rumor has it, will come out. So we'll see.
this is great. Chris, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Right. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you all.